Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel and to this, a second video on Soul of the Gem. And I will say straight off the bat, spoiler warning, spoiler. And if you would like to get a copy of Soul of the Gem, it is available on the Ko-fi shop, which will be linked in the description as it usually is. What I wanted to do with this video was go into detail a bit more about the power explanation, how the power functions, how it works in Soul of the Gem. So spoilers from here on out, and I will be in the edit adding the spoiler banner. Soul of the Gem is focused around a set of characters. There is 100 in the world, but there are not 100 in the book. Otherwise that would have gone way too complicated, who possess necklaces. The necklaces each have a corresponding pendant. They vary, but there are 10 different pendants, and then each pendant has 10 different colours to represent altogether the 100 different warriors that from the medieval era that they are connected to. The key thing about this is that it is a connection of bloodline. The warrior that each of these people are linked to is one of their ancestors. For Zoe Edwards and for Owen Edwards, it is Richard the archer and Conrad the warrior. I will also note that none of the warriors are actually named in the book. I wanted to keep that a bit more secret, although I did debate it quite a bit. Anyway, the way that the magic works, and I won't go into how it actually starts out because that's a big part of the book and that would be too spoilery. The necklace serves as almost like a conduit, and a good direction or description of this would be kind of similar to how the Helm of Fate works in DC, where a person places on the Helm of Fate and then Naboo takes over the spirit. So the necklaces are an anchor almost of two different spirits, or souls in this case, put together. Normally the one residing within the necklace is the ancestor, but when they are placed around one of their own ancestors who has a established bond with it, that flips. So the person who puts on the necklace becomes trapped within the necklace, which is also not a good thing, because the rule of the necklaces is that they must always have a spirit or a soul in. So if something were to happen, like one of the warriors is killed, and one of the key rules is in the Soul universe is that they can only actually be killed by another one of the warriors. But if they are killed, the person does not return to like the physical plane. They get trapped within the necklace, and it would be the same case with the warrior. If the person was killed, the warrior would end up still trapped within the necklace, although the warrior is obviously more used to it because they've been stuck in there for, at this point, centuries. The whole aim behind the creation of these warriors in terms of the antagonist Sabian was that he wanted to create an immortal army that would last throughout time, and just, I don't even mean immortal as in they don't die, I mean immortal as in they don't die to old age, but they also, it's very limited on how they can actually be killed. They can be, but it's very, very limited. So he wanted this army of 100 that could basically drive his descendants to power throughout all the different eras. But it did not work. And instead of bounding them to his own soul where they would obey his command, instead they just became tied to their own bloodlines. And I will also note, the reason why that happens is not properly explained in the book, and there is a very specific reason for that. That's not something I just missed out, that is future reference, that is something that's going to be But the different necklaces, you have the 5 sort of key ones that are displayed on the front cover: the deer, the helmet, the crowned eagle, the lion, and the dragon. But you also have the fang, the crossed axes, a horse, and then there are 2 others which admittedly I cannot actually remember off the top of my head. Cobra, no, never mind. Um, Actually, I think that might be one. Um, I will look it up and place it in the edit. But yes, that is almost all of what I actually wanted to sort of cover. I wanted to give context as to what happens, and I will state that their powers are entirely magical based, and Sabian is a character that deserves more of an in-depth look and more of explanation behind his powers and his power potential. And the warriors themselves, like, obviously don't actually have any magical abilities, like they can't breathe fire or things like that. They've only got the same sort of weapons they had back in the medieval period, but they've had years upon years to hone their skills if they've actually been allowed out of the necklace. Or some are more inexperienced because they've been trapped within them for a very long time. I will say, though, on top of everything else, and this is almost another small inspiration that came from the initial inspiration for Soul of the Gem altogether, Huntek, is when the battle is concluded and the warrior returns to the necklace by removing it and changes back into the person, because it is a full-blown metamorphosis. It's not one like phases in and the other phases out. No, like the body transforms into one. Is that it's an incredibly draining process, and it becomes easier with training, but it's always still draining. It's just you can hold off the fatigue a bit longer when you're better trained. But they only also bond through a specific test, and the test varies from warrior to warrior, and it's normally about something that they are willing to fight for, or some sort of tie to family or protection. Because the actual facade that the warriors were led under, the initial warriors who went and volunteered for this, under false impressions, was that this was going to be a spell that was going to allow them to protect their ancestors throughout all of the rest, well, throughout the future into the modern day and beyond, technically. And whilst that did somewhat happen, it didn't happen how either they were thinking either. So the 2 groups both went into this, each with their own ideas of what was going to happen, and obviously Sabian actually knew what he was trying to do, but neither one of them actually got what they wanted. It was more like a mismatch of the 2, because Sabian is also a very powerful character. Like, it did not work, but it still worked enough that under another spell, with him having direct access to the necklaces, he can still put someone under their command, enthrall them, if you would. And it takes a lot to break them out of that. But the necklaces are scattered all around the world. Some are currently in the possession of their rightful holders. Others have been missing for years, if not decades or centuries. Others are just completely unknown. It's or stolen, or any number of things. There are. It varies how much the people currently know about the necklaces, depending on how much their actual families have told them. But it is a interesting scenario, because currently there are. I'm going to work this out now. Zoe, there are roughly around somewhere between 15 to 20. I think it's on the lesser end of that, so maybe like 17 or something that are actually known in terms of their locations and their holders, which leaves another 80 something still out there in the open and missing, although there are actually two that feature in the story that never actually find their holders in the story, but they're still present. There are a lot of following what ifs on what's going to happen with Soul, and this is both within the sort of secret plan that there is with Soul and a couple of the other projects, as well as Soul itself, because it is going to be one of these stories that is fully intended to be going like that at some stage. But what I will say is that whilst the writing of a second Soul of the Gem may come soon, the actual release won't, because wanting to try and balance it out with the other projects. But yes, the whole power dynamic is that they are more magical based, so they are still strong and they can take on. This is the thing, they're immortal to almost anything except for their own weapons, so they can take on pretty much any armed force or militaristic force on the planet. So even just getting a couple of them on their side was already an incredibly powerful thing to manage. Although the one risk that they always have is the fatigue. The fatigue is the thing that can get them. So, and the key thing of all of this is that the warriors that are actually in this 100, they have no allegiance to each other for the most part. I mean, a couple of siblings and all of that, but for the most part, they're all completely individual who just had this intention of either getting power or protecting their family. So there are some out there who are just after the power. There are others out there who are after the genuine thing of protecting their family, but are in absolutely no position or compunction about turning around and stabbing someone else in the back if it serves what they think is best for their family. So there are a few rogue ones as well. So there is a lot to undertake with all of that. And like I said earlier, the pendants are not, there's not 100 like different designed pendants, it's 10 of each with different colorations. So the ones on there, you'll see 9 other types of them throughout the world building of Soul of the Gem. And yes, I think that is essentially all I wanted to cover. This is a fairly brief video, but I didn't want to go too much into the actual background behind it, more than I already have, because then, like, again, there's been giant spoiler warning from the very start of this, but I did not want to go so far in that is a spoiler that completely loses the purpose of actually, reading the story. But anyway, and I hope at some point I am going to get around to creating the other warrior characters. So far I've only got the ones for the 2 main siblings. But I will also say that this is meant to have some historical accuracy to it in the sort of warriors that you would see. So there's not going to be there's not going to be something like a gun wielding ninja or something like that. That's not going to happen. So it's fantasy, but still with the respect of history. Although we have got magic now, so. However, the funny part of all of it is that, and this is the final note that I will bring in, is that it is unknown, and I have a very strong feeling that I'm going to keep it as not, is the fact that Sabian has his own descendants, but they do not share his magic because the magic was not an inherited thing, it was a gift from another. More things for the future. Alrighty. That is all for now. So please do comment, like, and subscribe. Please do share with your friends. Please do check out all the links in the description. The list is growing all the time, it seems. And yes, if you would like to pick up a copy of Soul of the Gem, please do hop over to the Ko-fi page. It's available on the shop as digital only for now, so downloadable PDF. But there is also the, if you can't find it on the YouTube, I know it is up there, but it might have been mixed in with the other videos. It is a post on the Ko-fi page, the original video that announced Soul of the Gem's launch, if you wanted to see that, to see a bit more. And what I am also going to say, and this is going to be a very random last point, but a shout out to the whole Huntic community and the YouTubers who work very hard at keeping that show accessible for people in the episode format, because it is a great show and it's so sad they only ever got 2 seasons. Until next time, welcome to the Kingdom of Aphalas and the world of Fellowmind books, and be sure to keep an eye out as more lore videos will be coming. And if you caught the last bit of the stream, you'll know that Stojan also told me to start looking at TikTok content for the lore as well, so